Hello, mama friends. Welcome back to another amazing episode of the Mama Work It podcast. I'm so excited you're here. In case you're new to the podcast, my name is Marissa Lonick. I am your host. I'm a working mama of 4 kiddos and the founder of Mama Work It, where we support women in the juggle of mom life, work life, wife life, fill in the blank life. So today our topic is fascinating, you guys. We're talking all about the pelvic floor. And I'm super excited to introduce you to our guest, Jenn Lormand. Jenn and her business partner, Christina Walsh, are the co-creators of Tighten Your Tinkler, a company that helps you fix your pelvic floor issues. Jenn is a published researcher, exercise physiologist, and author, and has been using movement to help women heal for more than 2 decades. Determined to avoid invasive surgery after a devastating prolapse diagnosis, Jenn began to seek solutions outside the traditional healthcare model. Together with Christina, a PT and manual integrative therapist, they developed a revolutionary movement based on protocol that allowed Jenn to reverse her pelvic floor symptoms. So now Jenn has been living and thriving with stage 2 prolapse for the last 10 years. Jenn and Christina are known together as the Tinkler Ladies and have helped thousands of women worldwide. The Journal of Women's Health Physical Therapy featured their research study showing the effectiveness of their holistic protocol at ending pee leaks, back pain, and painful sex without kegels or trendy internal vaginal devices. Mom to 3 active boys on top of all of this, Jenn loves outdoor adventuring and volunteering at her church. Jenn, thank you so much for being here despite your very busy schedule.
Thank you. What an introduction. Wow.
Yeah, you deserve all the accolades, Mama.
Well, thank you so much
All
for
right.
having
So
me.
tell us a little bit more just about your journey. What led you to start your organization? I love the name, Tighten Your Tinkler. Amazing. Give us a little backstory here.
Sure. So I am a mom of 3 boys, and my journey started way back after a not so great delivery with my first child. I had lots of birth injuries, but at 26 years old, wasn't well informed about the possibility of things not going well in my first birth. And so the injuries that I sustained during that first vaginal delivery kind of set me up for the next series of events. With my second pregnancy, I developed something called vulva varicosities, which are kind of like hemorrhoids of your vagina. So an inflammation of the blood vessels that fall down. If women have had this, they know it. It is not fun, super painful. However, I delivered my second son when I was 27 years old. And so your bounce back ability is greater in your 20s than when I had my third son at 36 years old. And that pregnancy and delivery is ultimately what led to me being diagnosed with stage 2 prolapse of my bladder, uterus, and rectum. I felt a lot of pressure down there, had the courage to look down there, and quickly went to my OBGYN and was able to get in with a urogynecologist who is the proper physician. If anything kind of resonates with you today as we discuss these topics and you want that formal diagnosis, the specialist that you would need to go see is a urogynecologist. And essentially at 36 years old, he recommended that I have full pelvic floor suspension surgery. He also noted shortly after that he hates doing this kind of surgery on someone so young because I would more than likely need to have it several times throughout my life because it doesn't last longer than 10 to 12 years. So after crying my eyeballs out after leaving that appointment, I really got very convicted to try anything and everything that I could find and do to avoid having to have this surgery, or at least to put off and prolong the need for surgery. And so that's what led us down this rabbit hole, was really the personal need for myself to figure out, okay, how am I going to get past these issues, hopefully without surgery? And then when they began working with me, I quickly began to implement them with the folks that I was already seeing in my practice. And when they quote unquote started feeling better, I looked at Christina and I said, okay, we have got to formalize some research, really contextualize some data to be able to look women in the eyeballs and say, okay, here are the expectations that you can have if you're dealing with these issues. Here's what we can help with. Here's what we can't help with. So fast forward 2.5, 3 years later, we got our research published in several journals, the Journal of Women's Health Physical Therapy being one of them. And then we thought, okay, we've done it. This is it. We still didn't think about, we both had our own private practices under the same roof. We weren't thinking about putting anything online. But then the women who participated in our study, about half came back to us and said, okay, guys, like this really helped me. I have my best friend in Virginia, my sister in Houston. Could you put something online? Could you create some PDFs or some videos that I could send to them? And when we kept getting this feedback over and over, the entrepreneur and me was like, okay, we have to do something about this. And so that's really ultimately what led to Tighten Your Tinkler. And we can't take credit for the name of that either, because one of our clients named our business for us. So that is what started the journey back in 2019.
I love that story. I love it for so many reasons. I love it that it was a personal journey for you. I love it that you went into it with sort of like a serve mentality of just wanting to help and impact in a positive way as many women suffering from these symptoms as you could. And I love that the clients almost like were the what's the word I'm looking for? We're sort of like the push in all of it, the naming of the brand, like the push to get it like even into a business that you weren't necessarily considering doing. So many cool aspects to that story. Thank you for sharing.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So I'm going to be totally honest with you, Jen. I'm a 3-time C-section mama. Like I have not really, and I'm knocking on wood right now, I haven't really had pelvic floor issues to date, although I don't know. Can that even happen if you haven't had a vaginal childbirth? I don't know.
I love that you're
But
bringing
tell
this
us
up.
more. Yeah, I'd love to know, just like, tell us some stats on pelvic floor issues. Like, could someone who has not had that type of delivery experience them as well? I'm curious.
Yes. So that is a myth. It's a very common myth to believe. I had one vaginal delivery and 2 C-sections. And the analogy that I like to use is it would be like if you put a bowling ball, and we'll call it a 5-pound bowling ball, and set it on a mattress, leave it there for just 6 months, pick it back up, you would anticipate seeing some like a dent in that mattress, right? In that
Oh,
supporting
yeah.
structure. That is the pelvic floor. And so your pelvic floor absolutely does come under pressure, even with a C-section. And the thing that you're dealing with in a C-section versus a vaginal delivery is scar tissue, because they cut through so many layers. And when you've had multiple C-sections, as I'm sure you know, oftentimes, if your physician is kind, if you have a lot of scar tissue, they might remove some of that in the subsequent C-sections. However, that creates a lot of core dysfunction. And those deep abdominal muscles, many women who've had a C-section are numb in those deep lower abdominals. And this creates pelvic core dysfunction, because these muscles are really meant to work subconsciously and synchronously with one another. They're a part of a whole group of muscles that come on board and support and literally hold our guts up and in. So that is definitely a myth. In terms of global stats on this, 1 in every 3 women deal with some type of pelvic floor dysfunction, which is a fancy word for your muscles aren't coming on board and firing and supporting you in the way that they should be and need to be. And then you have the other end of the spectrum, which is pelvic organ prolapse, which is what I'm dealing with, which is progressed pelvic floor dysfunction, where now you have a falling down and in of the pelvic organs into the different pelvic compartments.
Okay. That really clears a lot of things up. Thank you. Thank you for that. Yeah. So that's pretty big, like a third of women out there that either are experiencing this right now or will experience it at some point in their lives.
Yeah, over 52 million women in this country alone. That's the population that we're talking about. So pretty significant.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I'm sure some of our listeners are relating to this right now. I'm curious too. I've heard that term and I'm sure you heard it, small bladder.
Yes.
Ever hear that before? Is that really like a thing? Like women who feel like they constantly have to run to the bathroom between meetings, or, they've been told they have a small bladder, or they have this belief in their mind about it. Like how many times a day is normal to be
Yeah.
using the restroom?
So this always shocks women. You should not be peeing more than 10 times a day. If you are peeing more than 10 times a day, there's a couple things that could be happening for you. One is you might be a pee pusher, which we find with a lot of moms. So if you are pushing your pee out to shave off those couple of seconds because you've got the kid at the door knocking on the door, or you're literally about to walk into a meeting and you don't want to have to go during that meeting, so you're pushing that pee out, that creates bladder retention. So that creates urine retention rather in the bladder. But it's not normal to pee more than 10 times a day. And ladies, I'm sorry, but there is no such thing as a small bladder. Every bladder can hold 1.5 to 2 cups of urine throughout the day, and our bladders are designed to hold up to 4 cups of urine at night. So I know it doesn't matter how much water you drink. I know that's the first pushback that I get from women that we work with. It really comes down to the dysfunction of the muscles that are allowing you to empty your bladder. So either you're pushing your pee out, or you're dealing with something called a hypertonic or over tight pelvic floor, where the muscles that control that sphincter in releasing the urine out of the bladder are tightening as you're trying to empty. And so what happens is you don't completely empty, therefore you feel the need, you have greater urgency, and you use the restroom more frequently throughout the day.
Okay. All right. So 10's the magic number,
10
guys.
is.
Remember. All right. So you said in the middle of the night, like your bladder's able to hold up to 4 cups of water. Damn, that's a lot of water. Is it normal to wake up and pee then in the middle of the night? Like I know during pregnancy, that's more normal because of the pressure
Yes.
on that place, right? But like, what about later when you're not having to necessarily wake up to feed the baby or to a toddler who had a bad dream and you just want a full night's sleep, but now you're waking up to pee? Tell us a little bit more about that.
Yeah. So what I always like to say is, first of all, sometimes we've trained ourselves to wake up in the middle of the night. If we've been getting up in the middle of the night to feed baby, it's very natural to feel like, when you do get up to take care of your child, you probably are using the restroom. But it is not normal to wake up in the middle of the night to pee. And this was one of the things that I noticed very quickly with my prolapse when I started implementing the protocol that we use. Within 2 weeks, I stopped having to get up at night to pee, which was not something that we were even testing. It wasn't one of the parameters that we were collecting data on. But this is the number one thing that women love to come back and report to us, that they're not having to get up to pee at night. And what it has to do with is, particularly if you notice that you are getting up to pee, if you shift positions, let's say you roll over to the other side and then you wake up, that has a lot to do with the support structures, right? And not having good support in your undercarriage. And so if that in particular is happening for you, our signature program, our program really does take care of that fairly quickly.
Well, yeah. I mean, sleep is so important, and uninterrupted sleep. I mean, I think we can both attest, having, done the sleepless nights many times as moms to multiple kids, is God, that first full night's sleep you get after many, many months of not getting it, you feel like a new person.
Oh my goodness.
You
yes.
feel like a new person, even if it's just a long stretch, even right during that phase. And so imagine all you could accomplish, how much better you'd feel, how much your mood would improve, how much your motivation would increase. Like if you simply got uninterrupted sleep every night. And if this is what's keeping you up, I think it's a motivator for many people listening to like sign me up for whatever that is.
Yes. Sleep is so valuable to our health. It is so important, as is hydration, which I find a lot of women who are having the issues that we've been talking about, where they're peeing more than 10 times a day, what they start doing is drinking less. And that can wreak havoc in a number of other ways, including constipation, right? Because it dehydrates our colon. And that also creates issues for our pelvic floor. So, there are so many things that these issues can really impact with our health, our well-being, and our sanity.
Yeah. 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 So don't stop drinking the water, guys. Keep drinking the water. All right. I'm curious about this too. I've got lots of questions, as you can see,
I
Jen.
love that. I love that.
This is a topic I don't know much about, so I'm really, really fascinated and interested. So are some women in your background experience, like just you working in this world, are some women just more susceptible to UTIs? And what can be done to prevent them so that women can spend less time managing symptoms and more time just doing what they love to do and just not thinking about stuff like this?
Yeah, this is a great question. And this is something that so many women really get stuck in a cycle of suffering silently, and wrecking their gut because they are always on antibiotics. Um, so, yes, if you have had a severe UTI, and what I mean by that is you've had a UTI that's gone to your kidneys, gone to your bladder, and then your kidneys, right, where you've literally had bleeding with that infection, it definitely does make you prone to more infections. That was the case for me. Now, what I will say to you is that does not mean that your fate is sealed, that you are always going to have to deal with these things, but it does mean that you need to have a more proactive approach with this. And so some of the things that we teach in our program are very simple things that you just have to get in the habit of doing. Something as simple as taking a cranberry supplement. We have one that we recommend in our favorite things on our website, as well as some of the other products that I'm going to tell you about, which is a simple peri-wash bottle with some Epsom salt and irrigating the area each time you use the restroom. Some of us, like myself, who have a urethral or a prolapsed bladder, because of the structure of those tissues, what happens is the bladder falls down on the tube that you pee out of. What that means is sometimes you're not able to get all of the urine out, and it starts to collect bacteria. Now, while we can't change restructuring how the urethra and the bladder is, what we can do is add support from underneath, and also by managing with the cranberry supplement and either sitz baths regularly in Epsom salt or using that peri-wash bottle, you're going to eliminate the bacteria, which is the root cause of the infection. So taking some of these proactive steps can truly be life-changing. I can tell you, ladies, I was on this path of just constant antibiotics. Then I started having gut issues, and I was like, this cannot be my life. Like I'm 37 years old. This cannot be the path for the rest of my life. And I'm happy to report that I have not had a UTI in at least 8 years because I've been using this protocol. So it is definitely possible. Do not believe, because my doctors were like, you're just going to have to live with this. And I'm thinking, no, not ready to accept that as my new normal. There are proactive steps that you can do if this is you.
Yeah. Yeah. Thanks for sharing that. And I think as you were talking about that, and that bowling ball analogy is really sticking with me. So good job with that. But as you were talking about it, it had me thinking too, like this could be an issue as you experience like post-pregnancy, perhaps with the pelvic floor just being sort of differently shaped or whatever's happening there. But it could also be during pregnancy if there's a ton of pressure on there, which could also dissipate or heal itself post-pregnancy as well. So keeping that in mind.
Yeah, I mean, there are a whole host of issues that can happen during pregnancy. Many many women deal with sciatic pain, right? Plantar fasciitis. I mean, all of these things are connected, and they're also not just painful, but they're indicators of, again, what we were talking about in the beginning of this core and pelvic floor dysfunction. So with those specific things that I mentioned, it's always good to get in with another practitioner to look at your alignment, to make sure that that is in check before starting re-engaging your exercise routine of any kind postpartum.
Yeah, I did have plantar fasciitis with one of my pregnancies, actually. I'm sure that was core related. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's amazing from, I will say this always, tends to get a shock reaction, but so many women with prolapse issues or pelvic floor dysfunction for a long time have a lot of neck pain. And that is because, from a
Mm.
structural perspective, the fascia that holds the bladder up slings around the neck. So when you've got that falling down of the bladder, that tissue is pulling the neck forward. So all that to say is that your whole body is connected, and if one part isn't functioning properly, it's going to have impact. Just like it has impact on the rest of your life, it has impact on the rest of your body.
Yeah, I've definitely noticed. So I was never someone who really loved doing core workouts. Okay. Like I've always loved or at least done exercise in different seasons of life, but always hated doing ab work because I think that wasn't a really strong muscle in my body, and one that I was, I don't know, it just wasn't my favorite thing. And then of course, after pregnancy, it's like even more your least favorite thing because it's just so much harder
Yes.
after that. But I will say for the past like year and a few months, I've done Pilates. Now, some months were not as consistent as others, but now I'm really consistent with it, and I don't have back pain. I like feel better in so many other places in my body, and like it really is that core muscle that makes such a difference. So, yeah,
Yeah.
I'm a believer.
Well, when you
I
think
get it.
about it, your core is truly your center of gravity. So without having strength at your center of gravity, it makes it hard to stabilize other movements. And that's what we hear from women all
Mhm.
the time who implement our 10-minute a day routine is, oh my goodness, I had no idea how this was impacting me going for a hike, or, with my swimming, or with my balance, so
Or
it's
with sitting in a
amazing.
chair.
Yes. Or with my posture. True. Very true.
Yeah.
Yes.
Not having like a backache, getting up from a chair. Yeah, totally. All those things.
Yes. And Pilates is very holistic as well, because you're connecting fingertips to core, you're connecting
Mm-hmm.
toes to core, right? So you can literally feel those connections and how it's so relevant to not just isolate that one body part.
Totally. I'm a big Pilates fan now. I was always kind of intimidated by it, but now I'm in. And I did start with like really simple, short workouts. So I worked my way up, and I'm definitely not like at the expert level or anything like that, but I've come a long way. All right. I got to ask one more kind of pelvic floor-ish related question here. Cause I know our listeners are going to want to know. We've all heard of Kegels, but you say Kegels are a waste of time. So let us know, like, what's the deal with Kegels? Are they causing more harm than good? Should we be doing them? Should we not? Give us your take on
So
this.
here's the question that I love to ask women. Before you were having the issues, whether it's pee leaks, urgency, back pain, whatever the issue is, did you have to cross your legs and contract to not leak pee before? Like, did you have to think about consciously squeezing and holding that muscle for whatever reason? The answer is always no, right? And so
Mm-hmm.
that's why we're against Kegels, because it's an isometric contraction of one of the muscle groups that comprises that pelvic core region, and it's not functional. We want these muscles to turn on and work for us without having to think about it. and to bring on board the other supporting muscles that are crucial into really functioning and for us to feel our best. Because if you're driving and you have to sneeze, hope you brought your extra pair of panties with you, because you're going to leak some urine, right? Because you can't
cross your legs while you're driving.
So it's not functional, and it's not a great long-term strategy. And look, you know better, you do better. Kegels do have their place for women who are completely incontinent. That was me after my first birth. I could not control the passage of urine or stool. So that was very appropriate for me, because I'm just trying to get those muscles to come back on and work. But it's a very short-term solution. From a long-term perspective, what we have noticed as we've worked more and more with women for now almost 30 years for myself, which is really dating myself, but if you're using those devices on your phone and you're thinking, oh, this is such a good thing because initially it helped you get past some symptoms, but then you notice a resurgence of symptoms, that's where Kegels can get you into trouble, because they can create an over-tightening of the pelvic floor, which can seem like the symptoms are the exact same as a weak pelvic floor. So that's why we don't recommend them.
Okay, good to know. Well, thank you. I have learned a ton from this conversation. I'm sure our listeners have as well. And I know you have so much more to share. And we're going to tell people where they can find you and how to access all this information. But before we do that, we're going to run through a really quick lightning round where we're going to ask you just some random, fun, non-pelvic floor related questions. Are you ready for it?
I am ready.
Okay, here we go. What book are you reading right now?
Get Me Out of Here.
That's the name of the book? Yeah. Okay, I didn't want to take that personally for a second.
It's the name of a book, and it's about, I volunteer a lot at my church, very faithful. It's about people in purgatory.
Oh, fascinating. Very. Okay, that's a really catchy title for that. Yeah. Very. Okay, who's the author?
Oh, I don't know the author's name.
Oh, okay, that's okay.
Sorry.
We'll find it and we'll link it so we can recommend it. Are you liking it? Would you recommend it?
I am. I mean, obviously, if you're not Catholic and you don't believe in purgatory, it might not be relevant, but I really am. It's just fascinating. It's one of those, it's my superpower is curiosity, and it totally piques curiosity.
Yeah, it's making lots of thoughts run through there.
Yes.
Yeah. I think the title's funny. I almost was like, what? You want to get off the show? What?
No.
All right. Important question. Nail salon, hair salon, or spa? What if you could only pick one to visit for the rest of your life? Which one is it?
I am a very practical girl, so I would say hair salon, because I get my hair cut once a year. I don't get my nails done, and I don't do the spa.
All right, hold on. We got to dig deeper here. You get a haircut once a year and you don't have to color your hair?
I do not color my hair.
Oh my gosh, you're so lucky.
Magnesium.
Guys, if you're not watching this, she has zero gray hair.
I do. I have some gray hair, but you're very
Zero
kind.
Gray, you can see on the camera. Amazing.
Magnesium.
Amazing.
Magnesium.
That's a real blessing that you have such low maintenance hair. Good for you.
Oh, I don't know about that, but I just choose it to be that way.
All right. If they made a movie about you, about your life, Jenn, who would you want to play you?
Oh, gosh. I would say my business partner, because she's a great actress. If you go and watch some of our reels where Christina is doing her thing, she's a great actress. She knows who I am. She knows my values. I think she would do me justice.
Amazing. Can't ask for more in a business partner there, for sure. And finally, what is something most people maybe don't know about you?
I'm crafty. I like to make things. Like, I love making my own wreaths for my front door. I like doing crafty projects with my youngest. I like making things with my hands, so I love to cook.
Mm-hmm. Nice. Yeah. You're like the Pinterest mom.
Oh, I don't know about that. But I do go on Pinterest for inspiration for sure.
All right.
Execution
Nice.
might be a different story, but I give it my best.
I've definitely had my share of Pinterest fails for sure. All right, Jenn. Well, before we officially wrap up our episode, please tell our listeners where they can find you, find Christina, and maybe I know you have a little something special for the Mama Work It fam that you want to let us know about.
Yes, thank you so much. So we have a coupon code for your listeners if for $50 off Mama Work It, all in caps. And if any of the things that we discussed today kind of made you think to yourself, ooh, could this be me? We have a free quiz on our website or in our Instagram bio that I would highly recommend taking, because it really does categorize you to give you an idea of, okay, how bad is this stuff really? And then we make recommendations based on the category that you fall in so that you feel empowered. You don't have to suffer in silence, and we help guide you to the next step in your journey, whatever that is. And maybe if it's not that bad right now, maybe you're not ready to address this, but at least you can put some of this information in your back pocket to know, okay, when you feel like you're in the season of life where you have more time, you can come back and revisit that. We also have a bunch of great teaching videos on our YouTube channel, and we have a very lengthy but in-depth resource page by issue on our website. So if you're like, I only have this one thing that I'm dealing with, you can head over to that page and all of the free resources will be there for you.
Love it. Sounds like you can find whatever you're looking for in any of those places. So thank you so much for being so generous,
Absolutely.
for sharing so much wisdom and insight, and for that amazing offer for our listeners. Appreciate it, and appreciate you being here, Jenn.
Oh, well, thank you, Marissa. This was a pleasure. I love geeking out over this stuff all day long. So thank you.